Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to another weekly used gun review. Remember, in these videos, we take about 8 used firearms that have come into the store and give you guys about a 2 to 4 minute small review on each one to give you guys an idea of some different stuff that is out there on the market. Remember, the point of this video is strictly to be entertaining and educational. We are not making this video to sell you anything, just to keep in accordance with YouTube's policies. Anyway, guys, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it now. Alright guys, you remember the format of this video. We start with most common and move through least common as the video progresses. Starting off with number 1 is a Varmint Industries Cobra Derringer. This one was meant to be a 22 LR, but it's got a 22 Magnum barrel. Sort of explain what happened there. So although this is used now, we actually did purchase this brand new from our distributor, and it was marketed as a 22 long rifle, but came in with a 22 Magnum barrel. We didn't think it would really cause too much of an issue since you can get cylinder conversions for 22 LR, 22 Magnum revolvers and stuff like that. Sold it to a good customer of ours who took it out to the range, and he had about a 50% failure rate with it. We sent it back for customer service and they had it for about 3 to 4 months. We ended up giving our customer back a refund because of the long amount of time it was taking them. We asked them to please put back a 22 LR barrel on the gun, which is how it was marketed, and to test it for function. It basically came back. They didn't do anything to it in terms of replacing parts. They just marked out where it said LR on the box for 22 Magnum. I mean, it says 22 LR on the box. They marked off the LR part, so it just says caliber 22 and not 22 LR anymore. So that was, in my opinion, the extent of their fix after 3 months of warranty. But anyway, I wanted to start this off with, even though, yes, it is a used gun, a lot of the firearms I show on these videos, you guys know I really like, and I tend to really like everything that I see. This is one that I've definitely, personally not had a good experience with, so I wanted to also put this one out as a PSA of something to potentially avoid. Brand new, these are going to run you about $150. On the used market, if they're in good functional condition, probably around $100. This is something we'll probably sell for 40 or 50 bucks, you know, telling the customer that it's not functional, or it's at least partially functional. It will fire about every second time you pull the trigger. Also, customer service gets a big F for me. How long it took them to get this taken care of, as well as just essentially marking out the caliber designation instead of switching out the barrel, which is what we asked them to do. But anyway, starting this off, hate to start this off on a negative note, but kind of a PSA for you guys, and that's our number 1 spot. You will find these around. We are not going to carry them anymore new, and if people bring them in used, we won't buy them anymore either. Just a pretty poor product. So anyway, that is our number 1 spot for you. Let's move on to the next one. All right, up next is a beautiful rifle from Savage. This is a Savage Model 12 VLP for varmint low profile. Now, Savage as a company has been around for a very long time. They were first founded, in 1894. They would acquire the Stevens brand in the 1920s, and they've been owned, you know, by Vista Outdoors, who recently sold the company to a group of private investors led by the former management team at Savage for around $170 million, and that happened in 2019. But they are still around as a company, so a history of over 100 years, and really their bread and butter and what they've really been making is lines of sporting rifles like this. This is their primary product line. Anything from the economy end on an Axis, the Axis 2, up to things like a 10, a 110, a Model 12. On the higher end, they make, you know, the short action configurations, the long action configurations, multitude of different calibers for different sporting purposes. Just a good variety, and that is really always has been their niche market. The Stevens line of things has always been more the economy side. Back in the 60s and 70s, they made a good variety of break action shotguns and things like that that you could get for, you know, the $100 to $200 price point. So anything from the working man's gun up to the advanced enthusiast, hunter, things like that, they have you covered in that sort of dynamic with their product line. So always a really, really cool product offering from Savage. Some other things about the unique features: very smooth bolt throw. The bolt is also a very iconic feature with a double locking lug rotating bolt head on the bolt, which you're going to find on all their bolt action products. On this one, the varmint, you have a wide swell here on the laminated woodstock. Beautiful configuration with a stainless finish, a heavy target fluted, free floated barrel with a target crown. Just a gorgeous rifle. Now again, 22-250. So if we go back to the beginning of Savage, one of the firearms that put them on the map was the Model 99, which 2 particular rounds were developed for that, the 300 Savage and the 250 Savage. Now if we take the 250 Savage, which is 250 by 3000, I believe, is a is the technical term for it, is the parent casing for the 22-250. So you took the 250 Savage round, necked it down to a 22 caliber, and it's got a velocity of between about 3,000 to 4,000 feet per second. So a very flat shooting, long distance varmint round, which is going to be a little bit low caliber in most areas for hunting things like deer, but great for coyote, other type of varmint, taking long range shots if you've got a nice wide flat area. So that's really where the round is popular. Somewhat of an antiquated round. Not a lot of people shoot 22-250 anymore. Not a lot of firearms chambered in 22-250, but definitely still has its following. And actually a really, really good varmint round. Also, being that it is a 250 casing essentially, because it is a low caliber, the recoil is very negligible, especially in something like this, which is with the optic over 10 pounds. So you bench rest it on a bipod, very, very low recoil, great target guns if you're not into varmint hunting or anything like that. So just a really, really cool product. Now, price point on these, new without the optic and everything, you're looking at about $1,000 when and where you can find it. Used, right now you're looking at about $800 to $900 with everything you see here. So about, $800 to $900 would be about fair. But anyway, really cool rifle. Happy to get it in. That's the Savage Model 12 varmint low profile. All right, up next is a very popular little carbine right now, and it is the Ruger PC9 carbine. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out of the box and tell you more about it. Okay, so the history actually starts back in 1996 with this carbine, and a lot of people who are newer to firearms probably wouldn't recall that. In 1996, a variation of this called the PC9, Police Carbine 9, did enter the market, and it was manufactured between 1996 and 2006. The whole concept, or at least the reason it came to market, was to be marketed towards police officers as a carbine that could be issued alongside the service firearm. Now, many of you might know that, kind of towards the late 80s when Glock was coming into the country, there was this big vacuum on police contracts, as a lot of police departments were thinking about switching up from things like, Model 10 Smith & Wessons, or from the steel frame Smith & Wessons to lighter polymer framed firearms. Now, Ruger did have a polymer series like the P95 pistols out on the market, 9mm, so the newer lighter weight things, and it was competing with new polymer pistols like Glocks that would end up really securing a lot of police contracts at the time. Now, to make those pistols more marketable and to make these carbines more marketable, they thought, why not issue a squad or police carbine that they could put in their trunk of their police car that used the exact same magazines as the P95. We can get the contracts on the pistols and the carbines. Also, we can retail both to the consumer market, the commercial market, which is what they wanted to do. Now, unfortunately, it was a great concept and good in theory, but did not pan out in practice, and they were not actually very popular. They didn't sell very well. What it was really designed to be was a scaled up, larger caliber version of the famed Ruger 1022, which the 1022 was a great seller, but for whatever reason, the pistol caliber carbine concept was really not taking off. And in the 90s, police were opting for things like AR-15s and surplus M16s and stuff like that. Now, it would be discontinued and sort of the concept would be shelved for actually about a decade. Now, if you guys remember 2015, 2016, 2017, PCCs were making a huge splash, like things with the Scorpions and then the High Points, which had actually been around for a long time. Ruger decided to go ahead and reintroduce a revamped version of the PC9 as the PC Carbine, PC was Police Carbine. Now they're saying it's Pistol Carbine now, and that's the variation we have today. And the current model is a takedown model. The one back from 1996 was not. It was literally like a 1022 that was beefed up to a 9mm that took a detachable stick mag from the P series polymer frame guns in the 90s. Now, keeping true to its original form, these do also use pistol caliber carbines. They are sold in 9 and 40, and they do come originally in the box with a magazine. Well, for the P95 series pistols, or I'm sorry, the SR series pistols, I'm sorry, which were their popular pistols at the time. Now they've gone on to the Americans and all that other stuff. As well as an adapter for the Glock magazines, which is actually stuck in here now. So when you get this new in the box, you get this inserted for the SR series, and then you get this mag adapter for your Glock mag. So yes, it does take Glock magazines. It is a straight blowback operation. You can move the charging handle to either side if you're a left or right-handed shooter. It is also a takedown model. By locking the bolt back to the rear, you can throw this lever and take down the carbine as well for easier storage. It is threaded on the front. It does have a nice peep sight configuration. It's a little bit heavy for what it is, pretty dense carbine, but really nice. It comes with butt plate extensions in the back, so just a really, really cool product. Now, new on the market, these would be typically about $600. Now the pricing is very elevated. I've seen these things selling new for $1,000. Used like this in really good condition, you're probably going to be around the $700 mark. So anyway, really cool, really popular little carbines. If you ever get a chance to take a look at one, I definitely recommend that you do. See if I can get this back together here. There, it goes back together that easily. Just really, really nice. Accurate, very reliable, nice, sturdy, robust, and easy to stow. So cool, Ruger PC Carbine. All right, up next is a pretty interesting handgun. This is a Beretta 92G LTT. LTT is a Langdon Tactical Technology. So for those of you who do not know who Ernest Langdon is, he has been in the firearm industry for about 30 years as a competitive shooter, a gunsmith, a technical advisor, and as a veteran of the Marine Corps. What he is popular for is co-oping with different companies to come up with a more refined variation of an existing handgun line for competition shooting, more professional use type of thing, and that's exactly what this is. So based on the Beretta 92 series, which is a civilian version of the M9, which was the pistol that won the XM9 handgun trials back in the early 80s, this is the compact version, so scaled down on the grip and a little bit on the barrel. They took this pistol design and sort of revamped it. What they did is they took an M9A1 frame, which is the frame with the rail, and an M9A3, which is the newest variation of the M9, took the slide with the forward side serrations, started that as the base platform, and then made some modifications to the grip. The trigger on this is actually very nice. So reset, very short, right there, back into a clean break. Now this is a double and single action pistol, but the hammer has been bobbed, making it more concealable, easy to carry, get that snag point out of the way. Put on sort of a lighter, thinner profile grip with more aggressive stippling. Really nice, attractive bitone finish. Night sights, tritium night sights in the back with the sort of day insert in the front. A really cool package, comes with the 315 round magazines. Just a really redefined, or I should say refined version of the 92 compact. Now this is the G model, which is basically, you can stage it into single action and then use the decocker like any other 92 series, but it is a decocker only, which does not stay on safe. It resets itself back to the fire position as well. So for those people who like a decocker double single action but do not want a safety, this is a good option. And they do have the G series on all their double single action pistols as well. A really, really cool concept. Now, the brand new price on something like this is marketed at about $1,100 to $1,200, but right now that's where I'm seeing used ones sitting right now. So something like this, used, really good condition. Again, right now, $1,100 to $1,200. The market's a little bit crazy, but that's what it is. But anyway, Langdon Tactical, right up there with like the Wesson combat variations of the Beretta pistols. Really, really refined, really cool, very ergonomic. Just a really good updated variation of a very popular pistol design. So there it is, Beretta 92G LTT. All right, up next I have a pair of Ruger revolvers that are pretty interesting and have kind of a funny history. These are the Ruger Bearcat single action 22s. Over here I have a Bearcat, and here is a Super Bearcat. Now, and these are actually 3 series or 3 generations, if you will, on this. The first one just known simply as the Bearcat, the second one known simply as the Super Bearcat, and then the third variation known as the New Bearcat. Starting with the Bearcat, it was released in 1954 by Sturm Ruger. Now on this model you do have an alloy frame and a sort of resin plastic grip. It is a scaled down single action army, if you will, based off of the Remington single action revolver, and it was really intended for hiking, field use, kit gun type things, survivalist, lightweight, easy to carry and transport with you if you're out in the woods or backpacking. It is a single action only. Like a Colt single action army or Remington single action, it feeds through a loading side gate and then fires in the single action position, has the base pin, ejector rod, everything else that you would expect. Now in 1971 they would come out with a second series known as the Super Bearcat. It would get this name because they went from an alloy frame to a steel frame, and they would go from plastic grips to a wooden grip configuration, which just gave it a beefier and heavier design, overall feel and layout, but the overall dimensional sizes were the same. It was, again, still a single action. You went to half cock to load it, fire it, and all that. Now, in 1974, Ruger would patent the transfer bar that a lot of you guys have seen on their GP100s, SP101s, Vaqueros, all those sorts of things. And in the same year, they would discontinue the Bearcat, okay? It was noted that Ruger made the decision because the transfer bar, which they deemed to be a necessity on all of their modern production revolvers, for safety issues of course, was not going to be readily adaptable for the Bearcat design. Now, a transfer bar, for those of you who do not know, and this does not have one, it is basically a connector bar that reaches up between the back of the striker, the firing pin if you will, and the hammer face. So what happens is the transfer bar will move up, giving a surface for the back, and I'm giving kind of a rudimentary explanation, back of the hammer and the back of the firing pin to be able to connect. With the transfer bar out of the way, the hammer is too far away from the back of the striker to fire. The transfer bar only goes up when the trigger is pulled. Therefore, if you have it back and something breaks the sear and sends the hammer towards the back of the firing pin, it will not connect and not fire, short of pulling the trigger. Okay, they said that this was too small of a package for that to fit, and it was discontinued. Now, it was later said in an interview with Bill Ruger that the real reason that they discontinued the firearm is in 1994, they sent out their catalog to retailers and wholesalers on all the Ruger products. The marketing team had omitted putting the Ruger Super Bearcat into the catalog, and then the order forms came back and not a single Bearcat was ordered. Ruger, overlooking the fact that it wasn't even in the catalog, thought that there really is no demand for the Bearcat, we might as well go ahead and discontinue it. It was a total accident, and that's why that happened. But of course, the explanation they gave was for the transfer bar issue and not wanting to say, hey, we goofed as a company. Bill Ruger would admit that about 10 years later in the 1980s in an interview. So kind of funny history there. Now, in 1996, we have the release of the third issue, and that is known as the new Bearcat. The new Bearcat would be like the Super Bearcat, except it would have the transfer bar, and they would offer it with a 22 Magnum cylinder configuration. It did go back to recall a few times because of timing issues, and so you could readily pick those up. Now, when it comes to a Bearcat and a Super Bearcat and their original boxes, they are not hugely expensive, although there are collectors, Ruger collectors, on these sorts of things, especially the earlier ones. Something like this, a Super Bearcat, might be in about the $400 to $500 range. The original Bearcat would solidly be in about the $500 range with the original box, and both of these are in excellent condition, 96% plus, I would say. But anyway, pretty funny revolvers with an interesting history, and if you like the idea of a small, lightweight, scaled down, single action Army Type 22, really, really cool pistols, always known for being reliable, and they are very tight. And the action, the timing, the smoothness of them is just really great. So just an interesting period of time from Ruger's past, interesting story on them. So there you go, a couple Ruger Bearcats. Okay, up next is a very unique one. The firearm here itself is not unique. This is a Japanese Type 99 Arasaka, which was Japan's primary issued service rifle for the Second World War, chambered in 7.7 Japanese. As mentioned, the rifle itself is not uncommon. You typically find these all over the place, but what does make this uncommon is all the accoutrements that are attached and included with the firearm. So the Japanese Type 99, when first issued, was known as being sort of the Swiss Army knife of the rifle world. You have things like a metallic dust cover over the bolt, which you have here. As you can see, as you actuate that, it is incredibly noisy. So one of the first things that the Japanese soldier did when they were issued one of these was strip it off the gun and throw it away. The other thing you'll see is it had AA sights. AA sights could fold down, and it was basically, in theory, a Japanese soldier could use these wings to track a low-flying, fast-moving aircraft and shoot it down with his bolt-action rifle. I don't think that there's been any accounts of any Japanese soldier being successful in that, so things like this were, deleted pretty early on in the war. Also, soldiers themselves would be noted for taking these off because these would be interesting, good snag points for vegetation and stuff as it was carried through jungles and whatnot. Another equally useless feature is this. It's a monopod meant to be a support device for shooting in the prone position. Again, extra material and cost and manufacturing these and putting it on the rifle. More complicated to manufacture the barrel bands here. And again, also an excellent snag point for vegetation and stuff as you're moving through dense jungle. Another thing is the chrysanthemum. The chrysanthemum right here is the mark of the Emperor Hirohito. This was essentially his property mark. After Japan's surrender in 1945, MacArthur had ordered the American troops under the behest of Emperor Hirohito to remove the Emperor's chrysanthemum from any captured rifle. So basically it would be removed from the Emperor's property, as he didn't want his property being in the possession of the lowly American GI. Most American soldiers followed the order, so most of the Arasakas brought home today have these marked off of them. Finding a rifle like this with its original dust cover, with its chrysanthemum intact, with its monopod and its AA sights is very uncommon, as many or most of these parts would typically be stripped off during the course of the war. Now, this is a Toyo Kogyo 32nd series rifle, and this would be the last series of Toyo Kogyo to have the monopod installed and some other features as well. So the rifle, the series, and having all of the attached parts is actually a pretty uncommon thing. Now, some negatives about this rifle is the dust cover does match every component of the bolt. So the dust cover, the cocking knob, or I should say the safety knob, the bolt body, the firing pin all match each other, but they do not match the rifle by 2 serial numbers. The serial number on the rifle ends in 551. The serial numbers on the bolt parts are 553. So off by 2 numbers. There could be many explanations for that. It could be a mix-up at the factory. It could be, and it was common for soldiers to strip their guns apart at the same time. You know, a bolt could have gotten mixed in with somebody else's bolt. Same thing with the GI bringing it home. So there are a million explanations for why it's off by just a couple, but it is off by just a couple, so not technically a matching rifle. Also, there is some rust and corrosion right up here on the receiver bridge, which is always going to hurt the value. But had it been all matching with no rust or corrosion, I mean, easily rifles like this sell for $1,500 to $2,000 because it is nearly impossible to find them totally complete like this. With the mismatched bolt and the corrosion, that will hurt the value a bit, and I'd expect something like this to go in the $500 to $1,000 range, you know, specifically there. So that goes to show you on collectibles how much the things like that can really hurt their value. But anyway, I've had Arasakas on here before. I didn't want to go too much into the history of the rifle. I've been over that 2 or 3 times on other weekly used gun review videos, but this one specifically was interesting because it is complete with all of those features. So there you go, a complete Toyo Kogyo 32nd series Type 99. Okay, up next I have somewhat of a classic here, and you guys know it's going to be a good day when we have a blue cardboard Smith & Wesson box. But this is a Smith & Wesson Model 15-4. Original bluing, original grips, excellent condition in the original box. Model 15 is really a cousin of the Model 10. Now, the Model 10 has been one of the most popularly owned, distributed, most famous, probably, of the K-frame Smith & Wesson revolvers. It has seen extensive police use, you know, around the 50s and 60s. It has seen extensive private ownership use. There are just a ton of Model 10s floating around the market. Now, in 1949, Smith & Wesson would come up with a target model of the Model 10, if you will, on the K-frame, and that was known as the K38 Target Masterpiece. It would essentially be like the Model 10, but it would have adjustable sights, either sold with a 6 or 8 3/8 inch barrel, more ergonomic target grips, if you will. Now, in 1957, Smith & Wesson would move to a nomenclature model designation. That's where you get the 19s, the 27s, the Model 14, which actually the Target Masterpiece would later be known as the Model 14. And then the Combat Masterpiece, which was a more service-oriented version of the Target Masterpiece, which is what this is. On the Combat Masterpiece, you basically had the Model 14 with the traditional 4-inch barrel, which you see here. You retained the target sights and the larger target, more ergonomic grips, if you will. So, of course, this would be known as the Model 15, and that's what this is here. Again, getting its designation as the 15 in 1957. Now, in the 1970s, about 1973, they did come out with a stainless steel version of the revolver, and that was known as the Model 67. And of course, a lot of variational changes, just like all of Smith & Wesson's other revolvers, would take place over the years. Whether it was moving the firing pin to a more transfer bar configuration, or moving the firing pin off of the face of the hammer. This one still has the firing pin on the face of the hammer. Things like the frame safety lock, which everybody hates about Smith & Wesson. So this is a pre-lock and still has its firing pin mounted on the face of the revolver. When it comes to Smith & Wesson, dating a Smith & Wesson, you can kind of get a rough approximate of around the era it was manufactured based on the dash. So anytime there was a variational change in the model, they would add a dash and a number. So 15, 15-1, -2, -3, and -4, which is where this is. Now, the line on this handgun would actually cease production in 1999 until about 2000, gosh, I believe it was around 2011 or 12. They came back with the Classic series, which is where they reintroduced their former Classic line revolvers, reintroduce them into the market. So that is not, of course, what this is. This is an older one, a -4 with, again, pre-lock and all that. These are, of course, all chambered in 38 special with a 6-round capacity, and most of these would be found with a 4-inch barrel, although they did make them in different barrel lengths over the years. But when it was first released, it was intended to be the combat version, the service size, with a 4-inch, and other popular ones would be like it was either 2 3/4 or 2.5 inch, a more snub-nosed variation of it. But the K38 Combat Masterpiece, K for K-frame, 38 for its caliber 38 special, has always been a very popular revolver, again, in line with its cousins, the Model 14 and the Model 10. When we're talking about price point on these are not excessively high in value, and I think a reason for that is there's so many Model 10s on the market. Even though that's not really what this is, it's close enough to what this is. In this condition, in the original box, and this bluing is probably, I would rate, there's a tiny bit of wear up here at the muzzle, but this is, I would call about a 97 to 98% overall condition. -4, you're probably looking at about the $600 to $700 price point, somewhere right there in the middle. So not nearly as high as a lot of things like the Model 29s and the Model 19s and things like that get, but still definitely has its place in the Smith & Wesson lineage and lineup as a Model 15. So really, really cool revolvers. Always happy to get these sorts of things in. There is a Model 15-4 or a K38 Combat Masterpiece. All right, up next is a pistol that I didn't think that I would ever really get a chance to see, and it is not very common, and that is the Hudson H9. Now, this is a pistol from a company with a very interesting, albeit very short history. So in 2017, many of you may remember the Hudson H9 was introduced at the 2017 SHOT Show. And for what it was at the time, it made a big splash because of its very innovative and unique design. So of course you can see the stylizing of the pistol is very different than what would typically follow the traditional lines of a handgun, most notably this sort of recessed area for the recoil spring up here at the front, which gives it a very low mounting point, keeping the overall bore axis of the pistol low, the sights very, very low over the wrist, and a very linear action on the functionality of the pistol, which all contributed to a very mild recoil. Now the frame on this is also steel with some polymer inserts, which also kept the overall weight on the firearm more commonly or more reminiscent of the weight on a alloy frame pistol, so about the similar weight of something like a 226 or a Beretta M9, but also maintaining a more durable steel construction. It did use a 1911 straight pull trigger, which married the concepts of the 1911 single action trigger and a striker fired trigger pull, also maintaining a drop safe capability. It had the grip angle of a 1911, again, very nice ergonomics, very nice reliability, and these are really touted as really, really cool pistols that got a lot of attention back in 2017. Now the retail price on these brand new would start off at about $1,100. And it was anticipated that you may be able to get them around $1,000 once they came out full scale on the market. Now, Hudson as a company basically entered the marketplace with this pistol design as their only product at the time. And again, there was a lot of hope for the company. I mean, I remember this was one of the big things around the 2017 SHOT Show. Now, they did have a very short history and ended up going out of business in 2019. Now, in that intermediate period of time, they came out with the H9A, or at least they announced that they were going to come out with the H9A at the 2018 SHOT Show. So they were taking orders for this pistol. They come out to the market with this pistol. A lot of people liked this pistol. So they came out with a new design before this one was even fully in the marketplace, which was going to be the A for aluminum. So they were going to come out with the same pistol, but on an aluminum frame, which was going to be even lighter. So what happened is many people canceled their orders, and many people waited for the aluminum variation to come out, which was going to be, I believe, even a little bit cheaper at about $900, and also lighter in weight by several ounces. That was sort of attributed as a really, really bad marketing decision and almost killed the company. They were relying on the sales of purchases of the original H9 to then facilitate the manufacturing of the new line, the H9A. What they should have done is put this in the marketplace. It had a lot of momentum behind it, built a brand and a pistol sort of recognition around the H9, and then maybe 5 years later come out with an aluminum version. But stacking the two products on top of each other so quickly, especially when they were depending on the sales of this for the production of their new pistol, pretty much killed them. Now, there were a couple other things. They did have lawsuits filed against them for not meeting their payment requirements on material contracts that they had, as well as actually this pistol. There were some claims on reliability and issues with the firearms breaking. They were sent back under warranty because these are offered with a warranty, and because of all the turmoil that was going on within the company and funding, none of the pistols were getting repaired, and in fact getting returned without any type of repair work being done. So that started killing the name in the consumer market with really bad consumer reviews and consumer reports on their Facebook and other social media outlets. So it was a really good design, but also a very poorly managed company, and it did lead to their demise only 3 years after entering the marketplace with the H9. Now, the H9 pistol in and of itself is a really, really cool concept. You can tell the FK Brno PSD followed much of this, and I had a full review out on that. Really nice trigger pull, really nice reset. If you like the 1911 ergonomics, this would feel right at home to you. The balance is not at all bad, especially this is empty. It takes a 15-round magazine. If loaded, I feel like it would balance even better. Fiber optic sights, you know, again, for what was going to be $1,100 new, compared to a lot of other things out on the market at the time and even today, would have been a really cool pistol. And, you know, too bad it just kind of fell apart. Came with 3 magazines in a really nice case. That's where it is. Now, on the used market, of course, because this was only really put out into the marketplace for about 1 to 2 years, there are not very many of these out there. I just so happened to get this one in used. Obviously, the customer who sold it to me sold it because apparently this is not recognized in a lot of competition circles as a pistol that you can actually use in competition. And he does a lot of competitive shooting, so he got rid of it because he can never use it in competition. So, really, really cool to get in. On the used market, these are selling at around or a little bit higher to what they would sell new for. So right now, they're between about $1,100 and $1,200 on the used market in their original box and in good condition like this one. So again, they're not like double what they sold for new. But as time goes on, they may go up in value because of their rarity, but also Hudson only being around for 3 years. Not even many people even know who the company is or care. So because of that, I'm sure their products won't go crazy as like collector's items in the future. But anyway, cool pistol for a very brief period of time in the firearms community, the Hudson H9. Well, that is all the time I have for you today on these. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting the like button. Also, remember, we do post these videos every week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification button so you are aware when we are posting these videos. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you off there. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.